Hello, my name's Ian Seeger from Pilot Career News. On the 6th and 7th of November, we held our very first virtual edition of Pilot Careers Live. We streamed over 30 different seminars with 60 speakers. There were 2 days packed full of great information. Of course, we recorded everything, and you're about to watch one of the videos from the event. Before you do, I just want to thank our sponsors, Bose, Alsim, Entro, and of course Pulis. Without them and without the exhibitors, it wouldn't be possible. The exhibitor pages are still live, so feel free to head on over there, go to www.pilotcareerslive.com and click through to the exhibitors. There's loads of information, loads of downloads, all sorts of great stuff there for you. Anyway, enjoy the video, and if you find it useful, really appreciate it if you click subscribe on our YouTube channel. Thank you. Bye-bye. How you all doing? And thank you very much for being with us all day. We are getting close to the end of the first day of PCLV, and we've got our question and answer session. I see I've got a whole screen full of participants there, so that's great. Let's have a look and see what questions. Thank you. I can see Mark Greenfield down there. Hello Mark, how you doing? Good to see you again, Ted. And Mr. APO there as well. Excellent. So, quick question. I guess this is aimed at the students here. So, do you fly outside of training, i.e. light aircraft? So, Bisma, how about you?
Sorry, I just want to tell you your voice is echoing, so I can't really understand what you're saying. Sorry. I don't know if that's the same for everyone else, but I can't hear you properly.
Is my voice echoing? Shall I do it? Yes, it is.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
I'm fine, am I?
Yeah.
Okay. Shall I pick this up for the second?
You're fine. Yeah, go for it.
Okay then. So the question was, no, it wasn't. It was, do you fly outside of training?
So before I started my training, I did have a PPL. I flew a Cessna 152. So for me, it was good to have the experience beforehand, but coming into ground school doesn't really help you that much. So even if you do have any flying experience beforehand or not, it doesn't really matter because they teach you everything from scratch.
Thank you. And we ask Marcus?
Hello.
Can you hear us, Marcus?
I used to fly Cirrus SR-22 before my training, but as Bisma said, I don't think that's a good idea. You need to focus on your ground training.
Okay. How about you?
So before joining my school here in Greece, I started at the age of 16 flying, doing my PPL actually, flying the Aquila Alpha Tango 01. It was a 6-pack aircraft, which was a really good experience before joining Ignatia, because here we have the DA40s with the G1000. So fellow students of mine that directly start with the G1000, it's a good to have an experience flying the 6-pack before going directly to the glass cockpit.
Excellent. Grace, how about you?
The only flying experience I had before I started training was Air Cadets at school, which I did for 3 years. So I had about 5 hours in a grob shooter, and other than that, just all my flight training that I've been doing at Leading Edge.
Excellent. So there's a whole bunch of questions here that are very difficult to. There you go. There's a strange one. Never heard that one. Is there a minimum height for the airline pilot job? Who wants to answer that one? Hands up. Only short people. I can't see the hands.
No, Bisma's put her hand up.
Who? Bisma.
Hi there. I believe it's 5'2". I don't know. I'm not 100% sure, but from what I've heard, it is 5'2". So there is a minimum requirement.
Wow.
And there's a maximum requirement as well.
From my knowledge, it depends on the aircraft type that the airlines are operating. So on average, it's a 5'2". But you will find that some of the airlines that operate smaller aircraft may reduce that height. And similarly, they might have an upper height restriction that others wouldn't have.
Here's a question that's come up in various guises throughout the day, and I can tell you now, I'm going to guess there's absolutely no easy answer. So someone's saying, how on earth do I get the money together to train? So question, Basically, you know, I can tell you, you're either going to have to borrow it, steal it, earn it.
Well, we did have someone earlier who had done some crowdfunding, and Rashid is on the screen now. So
Crowdfund it then, in that case. But there are no huge sources of funding at the moment, and there are no airlines that I know of currently sponsoring training. We all wish that would be different, but right now it isn't, and there's no point in me or anyone else telling you otherwise. Any of the ATOs out there got any amazing insight for funding? AP, how about you?
Amazing insights. No, I don't have any amazing insights. I think the only thing that I would add, as I mentioned earlier in the day, is that when one is going to try and get funding through borrowing, and that's predominantly where most people go, is to do their preparation really well. And so the return on investment and actually show the cash flows and do a proper job of it, as you would do in a business plan, that is very compelling. So when you go and do the case to a bank, actually, it's not as difficult as you think, provided you can demonstrate that you know what you're doing and you thought it through. So I would advise some people fail on getting borrowing because they just haven't done their homework right. And they just need to get it right and achieve it on when they go to the bank.
I would certainly suggest that people, in the same way that people put together a business plan, people should really put together a training plan, which should increase the funding part of it as well. Too many people don't do that, unfortunately. Is it worth experienced pilots to convert his ICAO license to an EASA one in order to increase the chances of finding a job in the future? Speculatively, I don't know. I guess it depends what you have to do to convert. Depends what the job market is. It depends where you have the right to work and live as well. It's really difficult to answer questions like that in a kind of blanket way. It depends so much on individual circumstances. But there you go. What else have we got for training?
I know there were quite a lot of questions. Well, when we were just talking on the panel just now, we talked about the toughest phase of training, and many of the guys mentioned the ATPL theoretical knowledge, the ground schools side of it. So with Ted being here, any pointers for people to prepare and try and reduce that stress about that phase of training, Ted?
Yeah, well, the only advice I would give to somebody thinking of embarking on the ground school would be to make sure your maths and physics is up to speed. I'm not talking about university standard maths and physics. You only need sort of a high school standard maths and physics. But what you don't want to be doing is worrying about sort of mental arithmetic whilst you're trying to learn new concepts. So that's the only prep that we recommend for our trainees. Obviously, the more aviation terms you're familiar with, the easier it will be when you're in a classroom. If people are talking about parts of aeroplanes and they start using terms that you're not familiar with, then you've got to learn what those terms mean before you learn what they do. So if you're familiar with an aircraft, sort of parts of an aircraft, ailerons, flaps, slats, you don't need to know what they do, but at least you know where they are on the aircraft, and it'll be a lot easier to understand. And the same goes for navigation. You know, if you know what a navigation beacon is, or what the term FMS stands for, all of these terms, if they're not new to you first time in class, then it's easier to understand because you can concentrate on learning what you're supposed to be learning. A few of the trainees on here, and I recognise one or two of you, nice to see you again, they were talking about the hours that they've got. There's no requirement for you to be able to fly to join an integrated course, but I tend to find that, in fact, I'm shocked when some people join a course if they've never even sat in an aeroplane before. So I would certainly recommend at least a trial lesson, and of course, if you're planning on doing the modular route, then you do need a PPL before you go there. But a few hours in an aeroplane would also expand your knowledge base and prepare you for the theory as well.
One question that's popped up here that's quite interesting, aimed at the ATOs. If you're on an integrated course, do you need to pay at the start, or do you pay as you go along? And clearly that differ between ATOs. How about the ATOs here? Anthony, I know you don't do integrated courses for ATPLs, but in your industry experience, is it a pay up front or a pay as you go option?
Pay as you go. Always in my history it's been pay as you go, but not through the whole duration of the course. So generally within the first 13 months, the course has been funded. but certainly not a full upfront payment. No, that's never done that.
How about you, Andy? Is that similar?
So a deposit when you book the course, and then there are 3 payments throughout the training.
Ted?
Yeah, well, we've just gone over to a monthly payment schedule, but as Anthony and Andy have both said there, you've normally paid for the whole course before the course is finished. It's not spread out all the way through the training.
Jason, how about you? What input have you got on that?
Come again? I'm sorry, I missed the question.
So in terms of payment, is it generally a pay up front or pay as you go?
In the school I am currently employed, you pay sporadically, depending on the phase you are. If you want to do the ground school, you have to pay up front, and then for flight training, you have to pay for a different phase. You know, for the VFR phase, you have to pay for the IR phase. You know, because of the hard times right now, I think that most of the schools are understanding about the situation, and they're willing to discuss the payment method with you.
Okay, thanks. And one question, again, one of those questions that's almost impossible to answer is, how do you pick an ATO? And clearly everybody here working for an ATO is going to go, pick my ATO. Rashid, you're putting your hand up there.
The best advice I can give anyone picking an ATO is to pick the best ATO that suits you. You're looking for certain requirements and you want to get your training done in a certain place. Pick the ATO that best suits you, because don't pick an ATO because your friends are going there or someone's recommended it to you. You've done your research and the ATO that you've chosen is the one that best suits you.
And Grace?
Look, this is dead easy. I know Andy has a great checklist actually at Leading Edge. I think he's doing a great job of this. But what I've always said over the years is stick all the ATOs that you fancy on the top, stick all the things that are important to you after having done your research, give them a score, add it up, and you'll know where you're going. So that's the easiest way. And that's use the tried and tested method in decision making throughout the world on various projects. And then it's much more scientific approach. And then there's a bit of subjectivity, but you've got to have some, you've got to have some structure to it.
Excellent, thank you. Grace, you had your hand up.
Yes, I've actually trained both at L3 for ground school and Leading Edge for like the rest of my training. And when I was choosing to join Leading Edge, looking around and getting a feel for the company and speaking to as many of like the staff members and students as well gave me a really good idea of like the sort of environment that Leading Edge was, and I definitely felt as though I would really fit in here. So if you can speak to students and staff members as well, just really honestly, then that I think is the best advice that I could give.
Thank you. Mark, how would you choose the UPRT provider?
Well, that's easy. It's high. Next question.
John, have you got anything you want to add?
Interesting on the whole selecting an ATO. It's really hard because every ATO you go to is going to want your money. Full stop. End of story. Every ATO will tell you as a cadet or a student that they're the best one. I think sometimes talking to people who don't have skin in the game, who are familiar with the industry, that's worthwhile as well.
Yeah, I guess I think Anthony's suggestion of that kind of slightly more systematic scientific approach is a very good base, and something that we should perhaps explore a little bit further when we get a chance. There aren't any other questions coming up at the moment. One, it's been mentioned earlier, it's good to be well. May I kindly ask AP what exactly I can do to be fully prepared for the course itself? That's an MCC jock here, but I think it means MCC APS.
Yeah, okay. Well, since we're getting people with instrument ratings already qualified, we would recommend that if they haven't completed their instrument rating within the previous 6 months, they are as current as they can be with the procedures they had on their instrument rating. Prior to joining us, they get sent all of the SAPs and all the manuals and absolutely put their heads down for at least 2 weeks to prepare. So what you want is the capacity to be able to cope with the course, not knowing the basics on the course. So all of those things out of the way prior, and then you can get as much value out of the course as you possibly can. So be current with your IR, do the pre-course study, and we'll do the rest for you, and you'll come out an absolutely shining star.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank everybody here for taking part in the question and answer panel. We're now going to have a quick wrap up with Karen, and then we'll hopefully see a whole bunch of you tomorrow. And thanks again. Have a great evening. A great Friday night. Have a great lockdown.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Wow, Karen. What a day. Nearly at the end. Wrap up time. What's been your highlight?
That we've nearly finished on time. No, it's been a really fun packed day actually. I think the highlight of it has been the actual true calibre of every single presenter that we've had, and as a result the people who have been watching today hopefully have learnt a huge amount from it to be able to make those decisions for the next phase.
There's been a huge amount of information, hasn't
there?
Yeah,
huge amount.
When we were setting the programme up, I didn't quite realise how packed it would feel on the day. We've just been like running around.
Yeah, it has been quite intense.
It's been quite intense, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and tomorrow there's an even more intense day, isn't there?
Yes.
So tomorrow we'll be on air and broadcasting from 10 o'clock in the morning. Having seen the list, we'll probably be on air and broadcasting at 10 p.m. tomorrow night. Hopefully not. So yeah, thanks. Karen, thank you very much for your participation today. I just want to clear up one or two things, if I can. Questions that came up during the day that I think probably need addressing. First of all, there was a whole bunch of people basically expressing an opinion with regards to BALPA. BALPA put out a press release yesterday suggesting that recruitment was not exactly buoyant. Well, everybody knows that, and there's no problem in pointing that out. And BALPA's suggestion was that people maybe look at a modular course if they're intended to get into the industry in order to space out their timing and to time the finishing of their training at a time when recruitment was going on. And I think that was something that Alex and Rod from Wings spoke about earlier as well. But there was a fair bit of criticism of us for not having BALPA here, and I wanted to address that really. We work closely with BALPA, and we've had BALPA at many of our shows. We did offer BALPA the opportunity to come, and yes, we were going to charge some money. You know, frankly, we can't do all this for nothing. Everyone who's registered free, and it's only thanks to the support of our exhibitors and our sponsors that we can put this on. We've charged BALPA in the past, and it wasn't a money issue. BALPA get a very good arrangement with us. And BALPA just thought it was didn't work for them at this particular time, given the industry and where they are. So we still get on well with BALPA. BALPA get on well with us. No conspiracy, nothing like that. It just didn't work out for them, and that's absolutely fine. There was a couple of people who, every time there was a panel, were going, I don't believe it, everyone on that panel is this, or everyone on that panel is that. Well, there's a whole load of panels. It's impossible to represent every single view on every single panel. The panels are 5 or 6 people. If we had panels of 56 people, we might get close, but that would be silly, wouldn't it, frankly? What else have we got? Yeah, just a quick reminder. The whole point of putting these events on is to give you the opportunity to collect the data, collect the information, make informed decisions, go into things with your eyes open. Nobody's forcing you to do this. And the world is not perfect, sadly. You know, the jobs are a bit rare at the moment. You have to pay for your training, and none of that is the best possible thing. But it is what it is at the moment. And we put these on not in order to rip 2 or 3 of you off, or even 200 of you off, or whatever. We don't. That's not the point. The point is that we provide you with a whole selection of information. You look at that information, you take in the information, and you make a balanced judgment and a decision for what's best for you at the time. You know, our internal motto is to inform and inspire. We want you to finish a day of PCLV or a day of PCL when we could hold it physically and when we'll be able to hold it physically again. The idea is that when you leave in the evening, you're smarter than when you walk through the doors in the morning. You've learnt some good information, and you've learnt how to make, you take that and you make a critical decision for you. And as I've said about 3 million times over the last 20 years, there is no one answer that works for everybody. You have to take the data and make your own decision. There's a couple of other questions that popped up about the MPL, and I think it's important to say, it's important to differentiate between the MPL as a concept and the NPL is where it stands at the moment. The NPL is actually a pretty good concept. It's a great way of training airline pilots. The problem with it is that you're tied to an airline, and that risk really needs to be shared between the airline, the ATO, and possibly the student as well. Because clearly, as we've seen throughout history, I think going back the first time as a Danish airline, was it Sterling?
Yeah.
Had some issues with NPL. So clearly it's not without risk, and you need to go into that kind of thing with your eyes open and understanding it. But the NPL as a concept is a great concept. It just needs to be a risk shared concept. That's enough of me ranting tonight. So we'll see you again at 10 o'clock in the morning. I would like to thank Alsim, Entrol, Bose and Poulis for sponsoring it. I'd like to thank all of our exhibitors for supporting it. The exhibition, virtual exhibition stands will be there. They'll be open for 24 hours. Well, they are open 24 hours a day. Hey, it's a website. We are slowly uploading all of today's sessions, so you'll be able to watch those in the on-demand section. We'll do the same tomorrow. So we look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Thank you very much. Have a good one and stay safe.